Hello, this is Bob Joyner, and this is a recording and analysis for the SPY on Tuesday, July the 9th, 2024. So I'm going to start out by following up with what we talked about yesterday, which were key lines of support and resistance on the charts, and I said we would look back to see if those lines were revisited later in the week. So turning over to the charts here, this top red line, as you can see, if you recall, this area right in here, 556.20, that area which you mentioned yesterday, was the high from yesterday morning. And you can see how often we debated that line in the morning session especially, but even later on it became resistance. But just a lot of back and forth across that line. We did go up to a new high today though, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on the chart, and that's will be another line that we'll keep an eye on as the week progresses. But we did come down and debate that line, which was yesterday's high, and then we went down to the next step below, which is also a line I'd mentioned, the 555.50, and you can see that line became support still. So overall, between today and yesterday, we had a higher high up here at the green, and we had a higher low. Okay, because it was not as low as we reached yesterday, so the market is still trending in that upward direction, which it has been doing for quite a while now. I wanted just to point that out and add that line so that we can look at it. That line up in here, let's go ahead and just make it 557.20 to use a round number. And the main thing I wanted to talk about today was just to let you know, in case you're not aware, that you can use the SPY charts for trading futures. In particular, I use it for trading MES futures, which are the micro E-mini futures for the S&P 500. And I just want to give you a simple example here and to let you see that. And the reason I did this, I'm going to go ahead and adjust the charts here while I'm talking. But I started a little experiment, I don't know, year and a half or so ago, and the idea was I wanted to see what is the correlation between the futures, the MES charts and contracts, and the SPY charts. And the reason I wanted to do that is because TC2000, which is the software I use for trading, they do not have data coming for futures contracts, and I've asked them about that, and it's not something that's in the works, so it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. So what I wanted to see was, can I use the SPY charts that I've created, which took me several years to refine, but I wanted to see, is there any kind of correlation? How much is it off? I assumed it might be off a little bit. And what I found, and what I have found and continue to find, is that there's hardly any distinction. That you can look at the SPY chart, even on the minute by minute chart, and you can trade futures from that SPY chart, which is pretty cool since I've worked out this whole system on the SPY, telling me about trend and momentum and all that sort of stuff, all built into these 4 panels that I continue to show on these daily videos. And so just to give you one example briefly. Alright, so turning back to the charts, this is a short I did on the futures, the MES futures, this afternoon. So the trade began at 103, right where this red dot is over here. And just so you know, what you're looking at is a 26-minute, 1 minute, 5 minute, 1 minute chart combination. So right up here where I have this red circle on the 1 minute chart, right at 103, shorted the futures. And the reason I did that was because I thought that we were overbought. There was also a line that no longer appears there since the day is over, but that was the R1 line overhead, and it was a fresh high for the market, but there's an R1 line just above where that green line is currently. And so I thought it was overbought. I ended up being right. So at 103, the futures, MES futures, were 56.44.25 at that point, and held it until we came back down and retraced back to this red line area just below that red line, actually, which I've already mentioned in today's video, was an area that we continued to debate nearly all day long. So that was about a point on the SPY, and that converted to about a 10-point gain on the MES contracts. If you're wondering what the correlation is, it's roughly 10 to 1. It's not to the penny, but it's pretty darn close. Good enough for me. So to kind of give you an idea, the MES contract, 10 points on the MES contract is equivalent of about $50 per contract. Okay, so 1 point in the SPY equals about 10 points on the MES futures contracts and 10 points on the MES contracts is about 10 points is about $50. Just to kind of give you some rough idea about the movements here. But what's interesting, okay, and the point I want to make is that you can use these SPY charts to trade MES futures. Now the reason that's important is because you can do both. Okay, you can trade SPY options, either same day or multi-day expirations, whichever you choose, and you can also at the same time you can trade MES futures contracts based on the same chart. So you're looking at one set of data, but you can actually trade in two different ways. Now, the ideal way, I believe, to do that, you use a prop firm for trading futures. Very little investment. You learn how to trade futures by looking at the charts, by experimenting, by just learning how to trade. And then you also trade your own money in a SPY options account, and the better way to me is to use the SPY options as more of a contextual swing, same day, intraday charts, but you're doing a little bit longer term trade based on trends that are showing up in the charts there, but then you're scalping with futures inside of that basis. So for example, if I'm buying puts on the SPY expecting the price to go down, then I'm also shorting futures, MES futures, within the context of that. I don't ever disagree. So if I'm short on, if I have puts in place, which means I'm shorting the market on the SPY options, then at the same time I'm shorting futures more of on a scalping basis in the mix of all that, because there's so many different fluctuations. As you'll see in future videos, there are lots of little fluctuations of momentum within that larger context, which will allow you to scalp the futures over and over. Now, this is not a scalping trade. To me, even though the trade was over in 16 minutes, okay, 16 minutes, made $50 per contract, not too shabby. So that's not exactly a scalping trade. To me, a scalping trade is more like a minute to 3 minutes, that area. But there's a lot of movement, and I'll show you examples of that later. But I just wanted to point that out in case you were not aware of it. Main point, you can trade both MES futures, S&P 500 futures, and SPY options, puts and calls, with the same chart at the same time in different accounts. All right. Hope that was interesting to you. It has been interesting and fun, for me at least. And I'll catch you on tomorrow's video. Thanks. Don't forget to like the video, make comments, subscribe. Thanks.